Boker Tov, today's daf is daf Nun Tes in Gitin, as we learn for four shlemer for Los Ben Ruben Yosef Ben Chaim Michal. Says the Gemara, we got down to the let's call it the seventh line. Yom Rabba Braid Rabba Bitamer Afil Braid Rabal. This has nothing to do with the previous discussion, except that it's the same Manda Omar. We just talked about Rabba Braid Rabba. Some said in the name of Rav Hillel, the son of Ravalis, that the explanation for Rebbe's base medrash was that they all, everything, whenever they had a discussion or a court case and made a decision and took a vote, they never started with Rebbe, the most choshev among them, because he darshaned lo sana al riv, lo sana al rav. Don't dispute with the rabbi. In other words, don't make don't contend with the rabbi. If he said an opinion, you don't want to change. You don't want to say a countering opinion. So therefore, they never started with Rebbe. That was the first thing we saw yesterday. And here's another thing that the same author, Rabba Braid Rabba, and some said was Rav Hillel Braid Rabbalis. He said the following to me: Moshe Bad Rebbe, from the time of Moshe until Rebbe, there were we never found that the greatest Talmud Chacham of the generation was also the wealthiest man. We never found wealth and Gedula in the same place, except for Moshe and Rebbe. Now, as for Moshe and Rebbe, there was no one like them. There's more below. Yeshua was also the leader in Talmud Chacham and also in wealth. Havi Elazar, but he also had Elazar at that time. In other words, we never find that one person was the single most respected in terms of Chachma and wealth. So even though Yeshua was respected, but Elazar was with him at the same time. Havi Elazar. What about after Yeshua's time? What about Elazar? Havi Pinchas. He had Pinchas with him, who was the Kohen Gadol, and also had wealth. The Kohen Gadol and Talmud Chacham were always made to be wealthy, even if they didn't have, let's call it inherited wealth. They were given wealth in order they should have respect. V'hava Pinchas. What about after Elazar was Pinchas? And Haviskenim, he had the Skenim who outlived him. V'havi Shaul. What about Shaul? Shaul was a great Talmud Chacham, even though he didn't teach others, but he was a great Talmud Chacham in his own right, and he was the king. He had all the wealth. Havi Shmuel. Shmuel was greater than him in learning. But Shmuel had died. But Kul Shanakim, we mean all the years of his reign. Yes, Shmuel died, but most of the years of Shaul's reign, he was not the only. He was not considered the greatest Talmud Chacham. Kul Shanakim. What about David's time? He was both the Talmud Chacham of the generation and also wealthy. Have Ira Hayiri. He was his teacher. He was a great Talmud Chacham. He died. We mean all the years of his reign. Yes, there were some years in their reign when he was the greatest Talmud Chacham and wealthiest, but we're talking about all the years of his reign. What about Shlomo? Shimon Gera, who was his leader, who was his teacher in learning. So he wasn't. Shlomo was not the greatest Talmud Chacham time. Iva Kotley, but he killed him. So it's cool to shanakim. And again, all the years of Shlomo's reign, he was not the wealthiest. There was a time when not that he wasn't the wealthiest, he was the wealthiest, but he wasn't the Talmud Chacham par excellence during all the years of his reign. What about Chizkiah Melech? He was killed by Sancherib, so he wasn't there all the time. That's the school of You're right. He was killed later on, but we mean all the years of Chizkiah's reign. He was not the greatest in learning and in wealth. What about Ezra? He was the leader and the Talmud Chacham and the wealth was there too. Sometimes Rashi says that Gedula means the wealth of Osher Kamoso. It probably means the leadership, whether they were recognized because of money or because of just that they were the king or the leader of the Jewish people. What about Ezra's time? Nehemiah ben Chechalchi, and Nehemiah also at his time. Amar Bacha Berei Rabba Afani Omer. I say the same thing, just like we start up by saying this in the name of Rabba Braid Rava or Rav Hillel Braid Rav Valas. I also have, and they said from Moshe until Rebbe there was nobody as great as them. I have a similar thing. Afani Omer, most Rebbe Avdar Rashi, from the time of Rebbe, who Ravina Ravashi, who so to speak completed the Gemara, from Rebbe to Ravashi, we also didn't find anybody as great as them in learning, that they had both learning and leadership at the same time. And as they went, what about Huna Bar Nasa, who was also great in learning and in wealth? Shani Bar Nasa, the Mechal Ravashi. He subordinated himself to Ravashi. He was considered. He showed him respect. He didn't demonstrate the same kind of leadership and and wealth as Rav Ashi. So now we're continuing on with things that were said for the betterment of society. Cheresh, a person who's deaf and dumb, Romas Venirmas. For him to get married, how does he get married? He can't. He's Cheresh because not considered a bardas. They can't get married minat Torah. However, midrabanan, the rabbi said they know a little bit about living together with a woman and marriage. So what he does is he can hint. He can, make gestures with his hands, with his head. He can indicate, that he wants to marry her, and he can also be hinted at. That's how they can do their business. Mashu Roma is kind. Mashu Roma's and low. Musrats. In other words, they can shake their heads. Yes, as we'll see, but this is only for doing business deals, buying food at the grocery store, or even getting married. Because the marriage is not the oraisa. You can also get divorced that way because it's only drabbanan. Uben b'seiro makovitz v'nikvas. Rav Meir says that the cherish can even just motion with his lips, just with lip motion. Right, just curl his lips a little bit. That's good enough also. B'metalklin. But he says when it comes to metalklin, it's not clear what he means. Metalklin means movables. It means like, they're buying bread or they're selling a car or something of that sort. Is he referring to getting married and divorced as well? We'll see. Haputos, young children. Here again, because young kids, let's say you have an orphan, 6 or 7 or 8 years old, wants to buy some bread. You're going to say he can't buy bread, he can't go to the makol, buy food. So in order for them to be able to live for their necessities, we say what they buy and sell is also considered a good deal. It's considered a good deal. We'll see the chiddush is not only when it comes to metalton, but even when it comes to things like, let's say they inherited the metalton, right? This only applies to metalton movables. It doesn't apply to let's say they inherited some cash, so they can use the cash if they need the cash to buy food. That's like metalton. So we say over here that a cherish, a person who's deaf and dumb, he can motion with his hands or with his head. That's good enough. Sarah says even with his lips, metalton. And then we say also the children. This is also because of for the betterment of society. How would a cherish function? Ben Sarah says it's with metalton. He can move his lips. Roma's Venirma sounds even not metalton, even other things he can do. Again, so they should be able to live. The same thing with children. Machlokas metalton. But Machlokas in our Mishnah, where the Tanakama says he has to show motion with his hands or with his gesture with his hands or with his face, with his head, shake his head or turn his head this way, that way. That's all he could do. But Sarah says even when he can curl his lips or motion with his lips, that's good enough too. So Machlokas is by metalklin. Aval begitin, when it comes to getting married and divorced, everybody says that he has just a hint. It's more shita. Isn't that obvious? He said the Machlokas in our Mishnah was metalklin. It says cherish romas v'nimas, but Sarah says comes to metalklin. It says mashmas no Machlokas by gittin. So treat the metalklin tonight. Now the same alphatam, I think, even by metalklin. Why? Because when it comes to marriage and divorce, that's clearly only drabbanan. They don't have the ability to get married on their own. By the way, if a person got married as a regular person, then he became a cherish, he couldn't become a cotton later on, but he could become a cherish later on. He couldn't ever divorce his wife minator because he is in marriage deraisa and he can't divorce her. He's not a bardas. But if he got married when he was a cherish, he can get divorced the same way. Mount is saying, I might think even by metalklin, we have this machlokas. Why? Because Rashi says, af metalklin kamar, the kosh can be gittin. Right? Mount is saying, af metalklin kamar, the kosh can be gittin, the low time gittin, who to kill him, since he got married that way, he can divorce from metalklin. Sometimes it's his metal Torah, for example, if he had assets that fell to him as a Yerusha. His father died and left him his wallet. So he might want to sell the wallet now. Maybe he owns it in a Torah. So therefore he says, maybe I would think even metalklin. Now the same af metalklin, but certainly by gittin we have the machlokas. Kamashma, no, the machlokas is only by metalklin, but by gittin, everybody agrees that you need more than just marriage and divorce, not just to say, mouth it. You have to actually indicate it more with your hands and with your head. Ikarabi, some say, some say the other way around. The same machlokes, the same machlokes begittin. I have an antam metalklin. Same af metalton means even metalton. In other words, according to the second opinion, that's usually one we go by. The machlok is whether a cherish, is it enough for him just to move his lips, like the Sarah says, or must he actually show some hand motion or head motion to indicate his desire? Is that only by metalton or even by metalton? But certainly by gitin, that's the second opinion over here. The machlokus is metalton, kach machlokus begit, the same thing. And it says metalton means even metalton. So we said that young children, if they buy and sell things, it's considered a good deal by metalton. At kama, what age? What do you mean by pu'utos? Today, when they say pu'uto, Rahman al-San, you hear it mostly, they left the kid in the car. They left the kid in the hot car. As they say pu'utos, like little children. Today, it's like nursery school or less than that. They're in they're in a nursery, a gan, little kids. But he says, Ad kama. He pointed to his son Rav Yitzchak, I guess, with his hand. He showed about shish or about sheva. Maybe he went like this. He went like 6 or 7. He went like that. A kid who's 6 or 7 years old. That's what we mean by that. Even a kid like that. If Kanamar Kavar Sheva 7 or 8, Masisa Tanak 9 or 10. Below, please. Depends according to how sharp he is. In other words, if a kid understands what he's doing, that he has to pay for at the store, he's buying bread or he's selling something. If he's old enough to understand, that's good. At the time of my, what's the reason why they made that takana? Min Torah, they're considered not bardas. They can't buy and sell. In order for him to be able to live. How could a kid live? Let's say a kid's living at home alone. He's 8 or 9 years old. He's an orphan. How is he going to be able to live? Nobody's going to give him. If you say whatever he does doesn't mean anything. If he gives you money for bread, he can take it back. The court will come and say you have no right to take his money, so nobody will do business with him. Nobody will sell him anything. Nobody will buy anything from him. So we said that who was the one who said this? Rav Abba Bar Yaakov Bar Yochanan. Just like at the top of the page, we had two things that had nothing in common with each other. One was the topic we were discussing about the vote that they took about the Sikrika and the rules about the Sikrika, and then we brought another thing. They said the name of Rav Hilbreg of Balas, just because of the same author. Here also we have something because of the same author. We had Rav Abba Bar Yaakov Bar Yochanan said this last memra that the reason why you allow children to have whatever if they dealt in metalton, it's a final deal because otherwise it's necessary for them to be able to live, to buy and sell, to feed themselves. So another thing that he said that Rav Abba Yaakov said like this. The Pasuk says in Malach Bayomer La'asher al Maltacha, the one who was in charge of the Maltacha. We'll see what that means. Hotze Levush, that's like the place where they made the clothes. Hotze Levush l'cholav de Baal. Take out clothing for all the people who worship the Baal. My Maltacha, that's why it's brought down here. Because Rav Abba Yaakov was mentioned before. Something that's rolled and stretched. In other words, we're talking about fine silk or silk or fine linen that's very thin, and with the fingers it could be rolled and stretched. Yes, Rav Yochanan came and said, Shigolo, Rav Yochanan said, Rav Dimi reported that Rav Yochanan said, Shigolo Brunayim ben Nunayim, that was his name, a wealthy man, Rebbe. He sent Rebbe a gift. He sent him Sivni, Bachomas, Salsol, Malmala. These are all kinds of clothing that were made from fine linen. Sivni v'chomas, how much sivni chomas? Kamguzo pagig musa. Enough that when it was very fine like material, very thin, and so much it was so thin that when it was a whole garment, but when you rolled it up, when you folded it up, it was the size of a nut and a half a nut. That's the sivni chomas. And salsal v'mamal, those were clothing kipsikto pagig kipsikta. That when you folded it up, it was the size of a gallnut, Rashi says, a gallnut and a half, 1.5 gallnuts, or like an acorn. My mamla was a davar nimel. It's called mamla because it's something, again, which is rolled and stretched. Back to our issue of children. So it was just mentioned because that was another thing that Rav Abba Yaakov said in the name of Yochanan. We said that children can make a deal. Now we know if you make a deal, there's a thing called onah. That's called, that's the modern word for fraud. You committed a fraud. What is a fraud? You took too much money from the guy, or you paid too little money. So regular halachas is that up until the 6th of what we call manufacturer suggested retail price, that's okay, because prices vary. Not everybody sells something for the same price. You go into 6 Coles, so see 6 different prices. If you were off by a sixth, meaning you took too much money from the guy up to a sixth, the deal's a deal, and you return the extra sixth. If you did more than let's say you took too much money, a fifth or a fourth, took too much, the whole deal's off mechametal. So here the Gemara says also, if the kids do a deal, how much, and if they made a mistake, or they took too much, or paid too little, or they paid too much, adkam, how much are they allowed to make a mistake? Rabbi Yonah Achtus could go to the same deal. Oh no, it's until the sixth. Meaning until the sixth, you're mochel. If they pay too much or you took too little from them, you're mochel that up until the sixth of the value. A sixth already, you got to return the difference. Okay, so we said that a katan, a pa'uta, a pa'ut, whatever pa'ut, their deal is a deal. They can buy and sell metalton, not karka. The buy and sell metalton, even metalton they inherited from their father, they owned outright. What about gifts? If they give gifts, maybe gifts, somebody fooled them, right? They need to buy. We allow them to buy and sell, so they should be able to live. It's necessary to live. They got to buy food. They got to get clothing, whatever they need. That we understand. But what about gifts? Would their gifts be gifts too? So Rav Yemer, no, because they're going to be fooled there. Mar Ravashi matasam. So Mar Ravashi says that it is a good gift. Afchua v'shodrua lekamid Rav Mordechai. Now these two opinions were switched by the Talmidim in the yeshiva. They made a mistake, and they said that Mar Bar Ravashi was the one who said that it's not a good matana. So they sent these two opinions to Rav Mordechai to ask him what is his feeling. Does he hold that it is a gift or it's not? Is it a good gift or not? And they said that Mar Ravashi said that it's not a good gift. Rav Mordechai, who they sent the question to, was a Talmud of Mar Ravashi's father, who was Ravashi. Amalei, so he sent to them, Zilu Amalei the Bar Mar, go tell Bar Mar, in other words, Bar Mar is Mar Bar Ravashi. Right? The son of Ravashi is Bar Mar. Go tell the son of my Rebbe Ravashi, who is also called Mar Ravashi. If there wasn't there a story like this, Mar, when Mar, my Rebbe Ravashi, the father of Mar, when he was standing, when he was coming into the base medrash, 1 foot was on the ground and 1 foot was already on the steps. They asked him this question about what about a kid's gift? Is that a gift? So Rav Mordechai heard these two opinions, the same Mar Ravashi said it's not a good matana because the Talmidim in the yeshiva made a mistake and switched around the opinions, as we find many times, Eipuchana, right? Because it was all about past, so they made a mistake. They switched around the opinions. And they said, Mar Ravashi said that it's not a good matana. Rav Mordechai said, what your own father said that it is a good matana. Right? Matana. Whether the kid is dying, whether he's healthy, whether they give a gift, whether they give a small gift, the gift is a good gift. That's what Ravashi said, and that's really what his own son said it too, except the Talmidim mixed up his opinion. So it comes out that what a child does is considered valid, whether as long as he understands what he's doing, even if he inherited the item, he could buy and sell, and he could give a gift as well. Rashi explains that the idea is that also it's is matana. Why they gave him what we call peace of mind. In other words, sometimes you have to give a gift in order to get something back, right? So sometimes it's necessary to give a gift. You have to give the mailman a gift for the holidays, otherwise you won't get your mail. That's how it is sometimes, right? You got to pay a little bit of what's called mild protection.
No matter what you do, you can't get the mail.
You can't get your mail.
They're going to privatize.
Yeah. I don't even think I have mail anymore. I don't even. Huh? Yeah. There's no.
You didn't know if it's one of my books.
Yeah. Eiludvarm says the Mishnah. Eiludvarm. So he said until now we've learned things that the Rabbanan made takonas. Rabbanan made decrees, rules, regulations in order to foster good life, a betterment for society. Made these rules for betterment society. Here we said also this takes it a little step further. He says not because of the rule of tikkun olam, because of the benefit of society, but for darka shalom, for peace. Eldam shalom amnei darka shalom. Kohen kari rishon. When it comes to getting aliyahs, we give the Kohen first. Otherwise, everybody says, I want to be first. I want to be first. No, Kohen first, V'achrav Levi, then Chesro. That's from the Dekar Shalom. This way, there's less fighting in the shul. They know there's going to be fighting. So the rabbi said, less fighting, right? Another thing, it said, Ma'avim Beis Yesh Dekar Shalom. It's a custom people make an eruv for Shabbos. So you have to have food. People don't realize it. It's just not just the fence, but you have to make a room. Like they're all part of one group. It's like a Shus Yochid. So they would always put the eruv in somebody's house. So they're going to start fighting. Well, they put it in my house this Shabbos. In my house. Where's the Kiddush Club this week? I want it in my house. I want it in my house. No. It's made a rule. We leave it in where it's always been. Don't move it around. Dr. Shalom. This way, there's less fighting. If you say this guy, it's always in this house, less fighting. Another thing is that Borshu Karv Lama, it was customary that when there was a water source, a water channel would come, there would be a water which would irrigate the fields. Then what they would do is in each field, they would have a bore, which was like a reservoir where they kept water in case the channel or the river dried up. So they would have a bore there. Now, who would fill up their bore first? Well, the water always went with gravity, right downstream. So they had a rule that the field that was closest to the source of the water would take water first. Then they would channel it. They would move it around so that the water would go to the next guy down the hill. So that's at Borshu Karv Lama Ismail Rishon. The one that's closest to the source of the water, he gets filled first. Nedar Kasham, this way they won't be fighting. He's first and second and third. As the rabbis made rules for who's first, second, and third. Matsudas Chai V'Ofos, the Dagim. Let's say he had laid traps for animals, birds, fish, whatever. Technically, unless there's a bottom to the item, to this kind of a trap, which you could say is your rishus, so you were koned with your rishus, you were koned with your chatzar, a lot of them don't have bottoms. They're just traps of sorts. And therefore, let's say I laid a trap and you found it and you came and you took it. You took the stuff. I didn't make a kinyan on it yet. I just laid a trap. Nedar Kashalom, don't take stuff from somebody else's trap. Even though they don't physically own it yet, they didn't make a kinyan. Darka Shalom, don't do that. It's real stealing. Gemara will say it's not stealing Torah, but it's stealing Drabanan. Drabanan said it's literally stealing because the rabbi said, they said, even though the guy who laid the trap, he doesn't really own it yet, they made it like as if that's like a kind of a kinyan. Let's say a chershet can find something, he can't make a kinyan, he's not a bardas. Still, if he found something, we let him keep it. You don't take it away from him. Again, darkei shalom, to foster peace in the community. If you have somebody gets a gomer, they said it's literally the rabbis gave it to the child. Let's say there's a poor person cutting down olives at the top of a olive tree. Let's say some stuff fell as he was cutting it and he didn't yet make a kinyan in it. It's his because of Darkei Shalom. He was cutting the stuff and they fell down. Don't take it away from him. Again, Yossi, all these cases, it's not just a Darkei Shalom. The rabbi said it's a nice thing to do. You shouldn't do that. It's his because of Darkei Shalom. It's Gezel Gomer. The rabbis made it literally like they gave it to him as a kinyan and then you're stealing it. Again, it's Rabbanan. Let's say the goyim see that the poor people are allowed to take leket, the gleanings, the stuff that fell, shikta, the stuff you forgot, the pay of the corner of the field. So they say, we're also poor. We'll take stuff there. You don't kick them out. You let them also take. You don't rebuke them or kick them away from the field. Let them also take. You feed the poor people of the goyim as well. Where do we get this business about the Kohen getting first and the Levi, then Yisrael? Say you shouldn't have fights, or like they do among the some kehillos where they auction the stuff off, right? Right? They auction it, so there shouldn't be fights. Of course, it's not fair to the people who are poor, but whatever, okay? Where do you get this from? Amar of Masna, Democrat says, Moshe Torahzos to Torahzos by Yitna, and he gave it. He gave it what to these people first? Eloquan and Bnei Levi. Gave it to them first to read. Rashi said, they should read it. Here's the Torah. Well, I didn't give you the Torah to store away. I gave it to Torah to read it. And who did he give it to? Kohen and Bnei Levi. Don't we know that the Kohen will come from Levi? We know Aaron was the first Kohen. He was Bnei Levi. Ella, Kohen Bereisha B'Ada Levi. I tells you it's Kohen Bnei Levi. Tell you that first the Kohen, then the Levi. That's the source for how you know that the Kohen gets the first Aliyah, then the Levi. Bisuk Nafka Amar Me'elcha. V'nikshu HaKohen Bnei Levi. Not from giving the Torah, but V'nikshu HaKohen. They should approach In other words, approach the Torah. Niksha Kohen B'nai Levi. Again, Atu Anan Lo Yadin, the Kohen, but don't we know the Kohen are from Levi? B'nai Levi. We know they're B'nai Levi. Ela Kohen Bereisha V'Hara Levi. Tell you that the Kohen should come first before the Leviim to read the Torah. Rav Shapiro B'nai Amram, Aaron, and Moshe. Pasuk in Divrei Yamim. Who were the sons of Amram? Who was the son of Levi? Aaron and Moshe. By Yavdil Aaron like Tisha Kodesh Kodashim. It says Aaron and Moshe, and Hashem separated Aaron, right? Separated Kodesh Kodashim. What does mean Kodesh Kodashim? That he's treated with the most spiritually he's treated the best. So both these things of like Disho, Kodesh Kodashim, or the pasuk in I guess that's where is that in Emor, the Kidashto l'chol dever shebekdusha. When it comes to holy matters, you treat the Kohen first. What does that mean? Kidashto l'chol dever shebekdusha. Everything is holy. Liftach rishon. That he starts reading the Torah first. And whenever something comes, when it comes to giving a speech, when it comes to limud, whatever comes first. Behold, the Torah, ben yeshiva, whether sitting down, whether it's Torah, having a meeting, always honor the Kohen first. When it comes to making a bracha on the food, he should. You give him the rights to say the bracha first to be motzi everybody, you're benching. After you divided the food into portions, he gets first dibs. He could choose the first portion for himself. That's like the Kidashto, whether it's became from Kidashto or from the pasuk in Divrei Yamim, Hakisho Kodesh Kodashim, to make him holy, or Kidashto from the Chumash. In what sense the Kidashto? Not because we have a pasuk that says Kohen's before Levi, based on the pasuk in Chumash and Dvarim, or in Beniksha Kohen B'nai Levi, but rather because you give him, you assign him holiness, and holiness means he goes first. As he goes first, whether it's making a bracha first in the Torah, whether it's making a bracha for food first, whether it's whatever, or taking the first portion, he's first. Amalei Abayler of Yosef. So why do you say M'nei Darkei Shalom? All these things you said in the Mishnah is M'nei Darkei Shalom. We give the Kohen first. M'nei Darkei Shalom, Kohen makes first. Why is it Darkei Shalom? Zaraisi. You're bringing down psukim over here. Kohen B'nei Levi, Kidashto. It's Zaraisi. Amalei. It's the Raisa M'nei Darkei Shalom. It is Min Torah, but why did the Torah say that? Because of Darkei Shalom. So he says, everything in the Torah is Darkei Shalom. Its paths are, all its roads are ways of pleasantness, and its lanes, the tivim are also peace. In other words, everything in the Torah is M'nei Darkei Shalom. So don't tell me it's Min Torah Darkei Shalom. These things are Darkei Shalom. Ella Amar Abaye. So Abaye says L'Kidamar. And as Abaye is kashas to Rav Yosef, and he said, "What do you mean it's the rice?" He says, "Well, it's the rice M'nei Shalom. Everything in the Torah is Darkei Shalom." So Abaye says, "No, it's for Mar. Mar is Rabba. Abaye was a Talmud, grew up in, like Rabba was a Talmud of Rabba bar Nachmani. Abaye also grew up in Rabba's house and was a Talmud of Rabba. And he says it's for my teacher Rabba's memra. What was his memra? The time of the Brisa says, Shnai Mamtin Zalzev, two people are eating, and one person excused himself for a few minutes, got to make a phone call or go to the bathroom. The other guy should not continue eating without him present there. It's not proper manners. He's going to take all the food without the other guy being there. So if two guys, Shnai Mamtin Zalzev, if they're sharing a meal there, he shouldn't take without the other guy being there. Shlosh, if three people are there and one got up, then you don't wait for that. These are some rules of etiquette. Habotseya, the one who makes the bracha, who breaks the bread, he's the one who dips first into the relish, into the condiment there. Okay. If he wants to, he's the one who should be first, but if he wants to give kavod, wants to honor his master, his rebbe, or somebody who's older than him, or just be in other words, these are the rules, right? They would say is the one who dips first and takes the first portion, but if he wants to give it to his master or to somebody who's older than him, he's allowed to. That's what Raisa said. But Amar Mar, and my Rebbe, Rabbah said, Allah, he said on that Raisa, but so that's when it comes to a meal. In a meal, you could say you go first. Al basic Knesses low, Daslin Suye. Basically, so what he's saying is this: yes, it is Min Torah, the idea of Kohen, they should be first, right? But the Brisa said that you could, if you want, you could be mochel your kavod, give it to somebody else. So the Rabbanan came along and said, M'nei Darkei Shalom, when it comes to the base, the shul, you can't do that. there's one Cohen here, and he says, listen, I get Cohen all the time, right? Or there's one Levi who gets Levi every day, right? He can't say, I'm mochel, give it to somebody else. That's the point. When it comes to a meal, yes, you have to be makdish the Cohen. The pasuk is telling us you have to give the Cohen comes before the Levi, etc. But the Bryce is, pardon? We're going to talk about that. So so again, what do we mean here, Dr. Sham? Yes, Minat Torah, the Kohen comes before the Levi. But the Brisa said that if you want to, you could be mochel. Comes along the Mishnah. That's what Rabbis, in other words, Abaye said, what the Mishnah is teaching us is Rabbis rule. That even though the Brisa said you could be mochel your covenant and give it to somebody else, but not in the shul. In the shul, if one starts to be mochel, everybody will say, well, I should be first, let me go first. Amar Masna, Hada Amar basic is low. This is what we say in the shul, you can't be mochel. You have to go there. It's only on Shabbos and Yantif when there's a lot of people there. So if you start me mochel, everybody will say, no, I give me Cohen. I would like to be first today. But on Mondays and Thursdays, when there's not a lot of people in shul, as we know, not a lot of people in shul Mondays and Thursday, then we don't have that rule. In other words, so you could be mochel. So the Gemara asks the kasha on Shabbos. What do you mean on Shabbos you can't be mochel? We'll find that Rav Huna went first, but before we get there, we'll take a quick look at the Tosas that starts Abol, the second Tosas on the page. Omer Benham Hanimili, the two. That was in those days. The Bechol Avitri, they were busy working. They couldn't come to shul. They had to be out in the fields at 4:00 in the morning. But us, but to us, where people come to shul regularly on Mondays and Thursdays, then it's just like on Shabbos and you can't be mochel. So it's mash. You see, in those days, they could be mochel Monday and Thursday. Today, we're not mochel Monday and Thursday. I guess maybe then also there'll be more fights today. Rav Huna, so the Gemara said, though, on Shabbos and Yantav, though, you can't be mochel. Gemara says, for Rav Huna, Kori B'Kani B'Shvasim, Rav Huna was not a Kohen, and yet they gave him to read first on Shabbos and Yantav. Shiny Rav Huna, Dafilu Rav Meir Rasi, even Rav Meir Rasi, the great leaders, Kahani Chashivi. There, so the most prominent Kohanim in Eretz Yisrael, they were subservient to Rav Huna. In other words, Rav Huna was a special case, but normally a Kohen can't be mochel his covenant and give it to somebody else. Amar Abaya, we're at the first of the wide lines, in the middle of the first of the wide lines. Now, we have a Kabbalah, we have a tradition. Ain't Shem Kohen, if there's no Kohen, your question, if there's no Kohen, Nispar da Chavila. The bundle is comes apart, is unraveled. Right? If there's no Kohen there, then there's no order at all. If there's no Kohen. Now he doesn't say, you ask, where do we get that from? Right? Where do you get it from? So he doesn't, there's no particular source, but he just says, presumably the order was that he said Kohen Levi in Yisrael because we don't have fights. But if there's no Kohen anymore, then there's nothing to fight about. There's not, or maybe there will be fights, but if there's no Kohen, there are no rules anymore. So two ways to learn this. Some say that there's no rules and everything falls apart. Rashi brings down two pshatim. One that if there's no Kohen, right, even a Levi, the Kohen, you don't give a Levi anything. That's quoted. Doesn't mean at all. Some say though that some say that when there's no Kohen, the Levi doesn't get any aliyah. Some say when there's no Kohen, there's no order anymore. There's Levium and Yisraelim. You can have a Kohen of Yisrael first or a Levi for third. There's no order. Not that the Levi cannot get an aliyah, but there's no order to it at all. The minig bismanazeh is that you don't have to give the Levi, but if you give a Levi, usually you give the Levi first. That's usually the way that's done, or you can give him mafter or whatever, or achron. But if there's no Kohen, so it falls. You don't have to give the next. You don't have to give the first aliyah to the Levi. You could. There's no more order. Ain't sham Levi. Whatever. There's no Levi. Kore Kohen. You have the Kohen, right? Yamod Kohen b'mkom Levi, right? Ain't sham Levi Kore Kohen. So it's mashma from those words that, and even another Kohen. Call up another Kohen. That's what it sounds like. Ain't. That's case from our Bilch. Listen carefully. Kohen after Kohen Levi. You shouldn't have one Kohen after another Kohen. Why? Because people will think people will think that something was wrong with the first Kohen. They found that afterwards he was a Ben Grushim and Chalutzer, he was a Mamzer, or something was wrong with him. Why'd they call up the second Kohen? Must be something was wrong with the first Kohen. That's what we say, that's what the Gemara says right now. So it sounds like that. How can you say if there's no Levi, you call up another Kohen? What do you mean another Kohen? We learned that that you never should have two Kohanim one after another because people think something was wrong with the first Kohen. You shouldn't call two Levium one after another. You shouldn't because people think something's wrong with both of them. In other words, some people think something's wrong with the first one. Why'd you call up the second Levi? Maybe the second guy, the first guy said good. And let's say you have a Levi, let's say you have Cohen Levi and then another Levi. People will think something's wrong with the second Levi. That maybe he's a mamzer and that's why he gave me Yisrael. So you should go be either one of them. So the question over here is, how can you say that if there's no Levi, you call it the Cohen Bim Komo? If you call it the Cohen after a coin, some people think something's wrong with the first coin. There's Kamina Bosa coin. No, the same coin. That's what we always do, right? If there's no Levi, what do? You call it you tell the coin, take another aliyah. That's what we do. Same coin, that's not a problem. But if you call it another coin, people think something's wrong with the first coin. All right, well, we're not done with this yet. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. By Levi, you say, when you say you shouldn't call up two Leviim one after another, because people think something's wrong with one of them. People might think something's wrong with the first Levi, that's why you call it another Levi. Or people think the second Levi is really Yisrael, so he's not really a Levi. So we should, I love Levi. The first one's not a good Levi. The second one's not a good Levi. Why do you say that you shouldn't call up a coin after another coin? But people think something's wrong with the first one. Why don't you say something's wrong with both of them? The answer is, so why do you say that you shouldn't call up a coin after another coin? Not that people think something's wrong with the second coin. People think something's wrong with the first coin. Why? Maybe people will think something's wrong with the second coin. It says the muchzik lan babur the high sheni the coin. Oh, okay. It's speaking about a case where the second coin, we know that his father was a good coin. We know that. So the Levi. So say the same thing by a Levi. Why do you say by a Levi? You say you shouldn't call up a Levi after another Levi because some people will think that something's wrong with the first Levi or the second Levi. Why would people think that something's wrong with the second Levi? If you say some people will not think something's wrong with the second coin, if you would coin after coin, but Levi also. Why is something not wrong with the second coin? Because his father was a coin. So here also say we're speaking where people know that the father of the second Levi was also a Levi. El Amr, the answer is Mamzer Sonasina. The answers will think, yeah, Nasib. We'll think like, you know what's wrong? Yes, we know that the second Levi's father was a Levi, but maybe he married a Mamzeris or a Nasina. So the kid's not Mamzer. That's why they called up the second Levi after the first Levi, because he wasn't a Levi, right? So Pasle the Zare and ruin his kids. So by Cohen also, if the second Cohen's father was a Cohen, maybe he married a Grusha Chalutza and he made his kid a Halal, the kid's not a Cohen. So Levi Mikavi. Yeah, but then how could you call him up for Levi? If the first Cohen, what's the problem? He said you shouldn't call up a Cohen after another Cohen because people have things wrong with the first Cohen. Maybe something's wrong with the second Cohen. No, the second Cohen, we know his father was a Cohen. Okay, but maybe he married a Grusha and the kid's a halal, well, then he wouldn't get Levi. He wouldn't get Levi. If you called up a Cohen first, then you called up the second Leah Cohen. If something was wrong with the second Cohen, he wouldn't be a Cohen. He wouldn't be a Levi either. He'd be a Mamzer, right? He wouldn't be a Levi. He would be like a Yisrael. So therefore, if you call up a Cohen after another Cohen, the assumption, the concern is that maybe people think something's wrong with the first Cohen. But something's not wrong with the second Cohen. Why not? Because we know that his father was a Cohen. And if his father married the wrong person, the kid wouldn't be a Cohen or a Levi, he'd be a Mamzer. So the fact that you gave him the second Aliyah can only mean that something's wrong with the first Cohen. Something's not wrong with the second Cohen. If something's wrong with the second Cohen, he wouldn't get Levi either. So that's what we say over here. So the Gemara says, but all these problems, Ulaman, who's going to be concerned about all this? Elios, if the people who were there for the whole davening, and they waited until Moshe, until they waited till, so they know that, what's the problem? What's the problem? You think something's wrong with the first Cohen? But he got Cohen. The second guy got Levi. The second guy got Levi. The third guy got Shlishi. There were 7 Aliyahs over here. What's the problem? Nobody's going to think something's wrong with the first Cohen, right? Something wrong with the first Cohen, you got to start. You read again. There's something right with him. But he counted. Most people can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 10 fingers. They can figure out. Said there were 7 Aliyahs there. What's going on? Elul Yotzin. People left early. See, in those days also, they left early to prepare the Kiddush. So they left early, and they may not know that there's something. They might think, oh, called up a coin after another coin. Something must have been wrong with the first coin, and they'll start all over again. They'll start with the second coin. First guy, something's wrong with. Or if you call Levi after a Levi, some people might think that the first Levi was no good. That's why you called up a second Levi, and you didn't count the first Levi's Aliyah. Or somebody might think that the second Levi is really a Yisrael, right? Because they didn't count. They didn't see that he was right? That how many aliyahs there were. So therefore, that's our concern about people who might leave early and not count properly and not realize how many aliyahs they were. So you shouldn't call up a coin after another coin because the concern is it would say the first coin is not good. You shouldn't call up a Levi after another Levi because you're concerned that people will say second Levi wasn't a Levi or the first Levi wasn't a Levi. Shalchu le b'nei Galila. This is really where we're stopping. Both. Just let finish the page. Shalchu le b'nei Galila Rav Chelbo acharein bikarin. Okay, we got coin Levi, right? We got that. What about what's the order for Shlishi, Ravi, Chamishi, Shishi, Shvi? Bikarin. He didn't know. Rav Chelbo didn't know. Also, Shalom or Yitzchak, but now they asked me. That's Amalei acharein karin tamid chachamim v'anasim. After the Kohen Levi, you give them more chashava people. Tamid Chachamim, who are the leaders, let's see, the leaders of the community. After that, the Chachamim who are fit to be appointed leaders of the community, even though they're not yet leaders. After them, he's told the children of the Tamid Chacham shall ascend and parnasim. We give aliyahs to the children of the Tamid Chacham whose parents are the leaders of the community. Afterwards, you give it to the president, the gabbai, whatever, and everybody else. All right, we'll pick it up from here. Tomorrow's daf is actually we started from Shalch Me'Glila, and tomorrow's daf on the podcast starts from the last line on today's daf. It takes us until the last line of tomorrow's daf, of Shabbos' daf. So on Sunday morning, we'll start from the last line on Samachamid Bay's on Sunday morning, as usual. Shabbat Shalom.
Great Shabbat Shalom regards to everybody.
Pardon?